What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm going to look over 11 staple cards for the standard format, which is Ultra Prism through Sword and Shield right now. I'll be going over why these cards are used so much, their prices, and about how many copies you should get for your collection if you're looking to build a variety of different Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 archetypes. Before we get into these cards, shout out to PotownStore.com where you can get just about any PTCGO code you need. You can use code Celio for 5% off there. And also shout out to FlipsideGaming.com where I write free articles. And you can use code Celio all caps for 10% off of your next order $10 or more. Starting out with JIRACHI, I'm not going in any specific order with these cards, but JIRACHI, if it wasn't in order, would be at the top. So JIRACHI's from Team Up. It goes for about $20 a piece, and it is so good because of its Stellar Wish ability. So Stellar Wish, once during your turn, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, you may look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a trainer card you find there, and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. This Pokemon is now asleep. So this card allows you to... It's kind of a pseudo search for trainers. It lets you look at the top 5 cards and get a trainer card. So that's a tool, item, supporter, stadium, whatever, any kind of trainer card. And this is a really good consistency engine since it's a basic Pokemon. There's no cost for using its ability. You can use multiple a turn if you have a skateboard or switch into other JIRACHIs. You can use this on your first turn. So it's great with the new rules since you can't use a supporter on your first turn going first. You can still use Stellar Wish to try to get some trainer cards and start getting set up early. So that's why you would rather use this card instead of just another trainer in its spot. I've seen some questions like, well, why wouldn't I just use more trainers instead of a card that can get trainers? But this allows you to choose from the top 5 cards of your deck. It lets you dig for a specific trainer card you may need. Maybe you've already maxed out your Pokemon search, so you have 4 Quick Ball and 4 Pokemon Communication in your deck, and you want better odds of drawing into those cards, so then you would add 4 JIRACHI to your deck. So JIRACHI is usually played in archetypes as 3 or 4 copies. It is a fairly pricey card, but the thing with staple cards is once you buy your playset of them, you can build so many decks because so many decks are using these staple cards like JIRACHI. Next, we've got Quick Ball, which is new from Sword and Shield. It is an item card. Discard a card from your hand and then search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it into your hand. The Quick Ball is going for around $1 to $2 now. It'll probably settle down about $1, but the set just came out today, so the cards are at a bit of a premium right now. Quick Ball is a search card that we've been needing for a long time in Standard, ever since rotation happened in August. It allows you to search for any basic Pokemon, so it's not just GX, it's not just non-GX or non-V. You can get any basic Pokemon, and it's important that it goes directly to your hand and not to the bench, so you can play down cards that have when played abilities, like the DEDENNE-GX, which we'll be getting to later on. So Quick Ball is just so important for decks to consistently and efficiently get out your Pokemon without using a supporter. It allows you to get set up quicker, it gets set up better, and I definitely think a lot of decks, if not most decks, will be playing for Quick Ball. Definitely a card you want to get a play set of. Next, we've got Professor's Research, also from Sword and Shield. Also another card that'll probably settle down a few dollars. So it's at $6 right now. It'll probably go down to like $4 in a week or so. So it's just a discard your hand, draw 7, which is something we've seen in the past with Professor Juniper and Professor Sycamore. And those cards were historically the best supporters in their formats. This card, I don't think we'll ever get a supporter card that really matches or exceeds the power level of a discard your hand, draw 7. It's just so great to empty your hand and get a full new hand, basically. It's a very simple card, but it's a very important card. Discarding your hand can be scary. If you're newer to the game or newer to building your own decks, you might think maybe discarding your hand isn't the best thing that you want to do all the time, but in most decks and in most cases, you really don't mind discarding your hand if you're seeing that many new cards. So Professor's Research, I would definitely get your hands on a playset of 4 of these cards. This is a very important supporter card that will be going into a lot of decks. Next, we've got Marnie, another new supporter card from Sword and Shield, coming in at about $4 right now. It is a holo rare, but it's also in one of the starter decks, if I'm not mistaken. $4, I think that's kind of a fair price for the supporter card, since it is very good and it will be played a lot. So both players put their hands face down, shuffle them, and put them on the bottom of their deck. Then you draw 5 cards and your opponent draws 4 cards. So I've went over Marnie a few times on this channel already in my trainer's review and in some deck profiles. But Marnie is so important because it disrupts your opponent's hand, it puts it at the bottom of their deck, and it makes them only draw 4 cards, which sometimes is better than a reset stamp or equal power to a reset stamp. And it allows you to draw 5. It's also important that you're putting your cards at the bottom of your deck, so you're digging for 5 new cards. You're not usually seeing cards that you just put at the bottom of your deck. As long as your deck is larger than 9 cards, you won't be seeing any of the cards you just put at the bottom of your deck. Marnie, I think, will be seen as 4 of in a fair amount of decks, but it'll also be played as just 1, 2, or 3 copies in some decks. Decks that have a bigger emphasis on disruption will definitely want to play 4 Marnies, though, so I think it's good to just get your hands on a playset of 4 of this card if you can. Next, we've got Cynthia from Ultra Prism. This card has been a staple supporter for quite a while now, and I definitely don't see that changing. I think the amount of copies in decks might change now that we have Professor's Research and Marnie as well as competition with Cynthia. Cynthia is fairly cheap at about 50 cents a card, so you can pick up a playset for just $1 or $2. So Cynthia, very simple. Again, shuffle your hand, draw 6. It's not as flashy as something like Marnie, but it gets you an extra card. It's a consistent draw. Maybe you don't want to always disrupt your opponent's hand if they have a bad hand, so having Cynthia as an option is good. It's just your classic shuffle draw card, which, like Professor's Research, the discard draw 7, a shuffle draw 6 is just always going to be good and always going to be an option you want when you're building decks. So I definitely suggest picking up a playset of this card. It definitely can't hurt. Next, we've got Reset Stamp, which may decrease in play a bit since we now have Marnie, but I also suggest still having this card for your collection if you're newer to deck building or newer to the game. Very cheap, like Cynthia, 50 cents or so. You could probably get 2 or 3 or 4 for $1 or $2. Reset Stamp is usually only played as a 1 or 2 of in most decks, but it's very good. Your opponent shuffles their hand into their deck and draws a card for each of their remaining prize cards, so it is just an item card that disrupts your opponent's hand, and it makes them draw less cards if they have taken more prizes. So it's a very good comeback card. Comeback mechanics aren't extremely popular in Pokemon, or at least in the standard format, and Reset Stamp really revitalized comeback potential since we haven't had N in the standard format for a while, which was a similar effect. Reset Stamp isn't played in full counts of 4 usually because it's better as the game goes on, so you don't really want to see it early on, but it's still a very, very valuable resource to have in your deck. I suggest having some of these in your collection because there are going to be decks that you're building that want to have Reset Stamp in the list. Next, we've got Custom Catcher. This price may go down a bit, even though it's an older card from Lost Thunder, since we have gotten just regular Pokemon Catcher reprinted in Sword and Shield, which is a flip mechanic. That card's fairly cheap. I'm not too worried about picking those up, but Custom Catcher is still a popular card. It's good. It's in ZACIAN variants. It's in Pika-ROM variants. A lot of top tier decks. It runs about $5 a piece right now, but like I said, I think it might drop to like $4 or maybe even $3 a piece. So what Custom Catcher does is if you play 2 cards at once, you can bring up any of your opponent's benched Pokemon to their active slot, and it also doubles as a small draw support card. If you just play one of them, you can draw cards until you have 3 cards in your hand, and it does get used for that first effect quite often when you're dead drawing and you can just empty your hand and use a Custom Catcher to try to draw into a supporter card or something like that. Custom Catcher is an important card to have 4 of in your collection, I believe, for this upcoming standard format, because the gust effect on just anything you want is a very, very powerful effect that should not be underrated. Next, we've got Aurora Energy, another new card from Sword and Shield, fairly cheap. I've been seeing it around 30 to 50 cents online, so not a big deal to pick up a playset of. It's kind of like Rainbow Energy. It does provide every energy one at a time. One energy at a time, but all energies. But instead of Rainbow Energy, where Rainbow Energy places 1 damage counter upon playing it to your Pokemon, Aurora Energy discards a card from your hand to attach it to a Pokemon, and discarding a card from your hand is actually good for a lot of decks. It's good for Pikarom if you're discarding a Lightning Energy to attach with Coco Prism. It's good in Zacian variants, so you can use Metal Patch. It's good in Mewtwo decks, so you can get more attacker options in the discard pile. So Aurora Energy is going to see a ton of play, and you should definitely have a playset of this in your collection for deck building. Next, we've got ORANGURU from Sword and Shield. It's at about $5 right now, and it is a pretty solid holo rare, so it might hold that price. Its ability allows you to switch a card from your hand with the top card of your deck once a turn. And I've also went over this card a lot in previous videos, but it has a lot of potential. It can put a card at the top of your deck that you don't want to discard with your Professor's Research, so you can switch it with your top card and then Professor's Research back into that resource that you didn't want to get rid of. It can allow you to just dig 1 card deeper if you need 1 card for a play that turn. It can allow you to set the top card of your deck for something like Zacian V's ability that needs a Metal Energy on top to accelerate it. It has a lot of options. It also can be a counter to Reset Stamp Chip Mars combo in Pidgeotto control. So ORANGURU is a card I think you should have 1 of in your collection. It'll be splashed into a fair amount of decks. Next, we've got Zacian V, the most important, popular, strongest card out of Sword and Shield, potentially. Its ability, Intrepid Sword. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any number of Metal Energy there to this Pokemon, and put the other cards into your hand, and then your turn ends. So essentially, it allows you to draw 3 cards, and if any of them happen to be Metal Energy, you can accelerate them to Zacian. And then it has the attack Brave Blade that does 230 for 3 energy, and it's metal, so it gets support from Metal Saucer. This card is just insane. It's not just for Zacian V decks, though. You can play this in decks that don't even use Metal Energy just for that Draw 3 ability, and it will be used as that, which is why it's in this staple video. It is about $25 right now. I think that's a fine price for it, since it is one of the strongest cards in the strongest Pokemon by far. And like I said, it's going to be used in Zacian V variants, which are going to be tier 1 and be very, very good. But it's also going to be used in non-Zacian variants for draw support. I've seen it in, I think I've seen it in Baby Blounds as like a turn 1 draw 3. I've seen it in a stall variant, which I'll be covering on the video on the channel. I've seen it in control variants, so you can definitely use this card as just a draw option on turn 1 going first when you can't use as a supporter or in decks that need to set up, and it will also be used in Zacian variants, so it's very good to get your hands on a few of these. And lastly, DEDENNE-GX from Unbroken Bonds. This goes for about $26 right now. I don't think this card will be going down in price. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can discard your hand and draw 6, and you can only use 1 of these abilities a turn. So, discard your hand, draw 6 without using your supporter for the turn is just bonkers. So you can use Dead Change, discard, draw 6, play some cards, and then Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7, and play some of those cards. You just have so many options when you're seeing that many cards a turn that you don't care that you're discarding your hand most of the time. So DEDENNE-GX, I've seen it and ranging from 1 to 4 ofs in decks. I think 2 is a safe number to buy of this card for now. Most decks are going to run 1 and 2, but like I said, sometimes you'll see decks including 3, and in rare cases 4 DEDENNE-GX. So this is just a quick picture of all the cards I talked about in this video. I think all of these cards are a great investment to get right now for standard format Pokemon Ultra Prism through Sword and Shield, which will be the legal standard format as of February 21st, I believe, for the OCIC tournament, which will be the first tournament with Sword and Shield legal in North America. So 4 JIRACHI, 3 ZACIAN, 2 DEDENNE, an ORANGURU, 4 Research, 4 MARNIE, 4 CYNTHIA, 4 Quick Ball, 2 Stamp, 4 Custom Catcher, and 4 AURORA Energy. I think this is a great starter set of staples to pick up, so you can start building a lot of different decks that you want to build, and you'll have a lot of the staple cards ready to go. So I hope this video could help some of you, especially those of you that are newer to deck building or just starting out with the game in general. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more content like this on the channel. Check out PotownStore.com and FlipsideGaming.com. I'm very happy to be working with both of those companies, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.